In this lesson, you will learn how to form parallel structure, which will really help you add both clarity and sophistication to your writing. Parallel structure adds both clarity and sophistication to your writing. When you use parallel structure, you increase the readability of your writing by creating word patterns that readers can easily follow. Parallel structure, also called parallelism, is the repetition of a chosen grammatical form within a sentence. By making each compared item or idea in your sentence follow the same grammatical pattern, you create a parallel construction. Here's an example. This sentence is not in parallel structure. Aaron likes skiing, the mall, and to go out to eat. In order to figure out the parallel structure of a sentence, I recommend looking for the conjunction, the word that is joining the items that need to be in the same form. In this sentence, it's and. We want to make sure that the items being joined are in the same structure, that in other words, they balance on the teeter-totter created by this conjunction. So the words being joined in this sentence are skiing, the mall, and to go out to eat. Without knowing anything else about the structure of this sentence, you should be able to look at these three groups and tell that they're not in parallel structure. If you do know anything about the grammatical structure of the sentence, even better, because once you can label the parts, then you can know for sure how to bring it into balance. Skiing is a gerund, or a word that looks like a verb but is actually functioning as a noun. The mall is a regular old noun. And to go out to eat is an infinitive phrase. We need all of these three parts to be the same, and we have multiple options for bringing them into balance. Your decision is going to be based upon really what sounds the best in the context of your own writing. One way to fix the sentence would be to make all three elements gerunds. Aaron likes skiing, shopping, and eating out. All three are gerunds. Another way to bring the sentence into parallel structure is to turn each of them into an infinitive phrase. Aaron likes to ski, to shop, and to eat out. You could actually take this a step further and say Aaron likes to ski, shop, and eat out, so that what we're really bringing into balance are the complements of the infinitive rather than the infinitive phrases themselves. But as you've written it here, we have three infinitives. So let's get into some of the rules. Whenever you use coordinating conjunctions, you must create parallel structure. When you connect two or more words, phrases, or clauses with a coordinating conjunction, use parallel structure. The easiest way to remember the coordinating conjunctions is to remember the acronym FANBOYS. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. These are the coordinating conjunctions. Coordinate means equal in rank, quality, or significance. So you would use a coordinating conjunction when you want to show that the elements you're joining together are equal, that they're of equal rank, quality, or significance. And if they're equal, then really they should be in the same grammatical form. They should balance. So an example of a sentence that is not parallel is my brother took me golfing and to a baseball game. This probably doesn't sound wrong to most people, but it's not parallel because the elements being joined aren't the same. So again, we want to first look for the conjunction. Then we want to find the elements that are balancing on that conjunction. Golfing to a baseball game. Again, looking at this, you should be able to tell they're not the same. Golfing is a gerund. To a baseball game is a prepositional phrase. So one way to bring them into parallel structure is to pick one of those forms and make both of them match that form. My brother took me to play golf and to watch a baseball game. Here I had to change both to make it make sense. We wouldn't say my brother took me golfing and watching a baseball game. That doesn't sound right. So sometimes we really only have one option based on what it is I'm trying to say. But by doing this, I've created two infinitive phrases. You also need to use parallel structure when you're joining coordinate items in a list. So here's an example sentence. A good coach must learn to communicate with players, organizing a schedule, and adversity. Now for me, I can easily hear how this sentence is off in some way. And the reason this is off is because the items being joined in the list are not parallel. It doesn't make sense to say a good coach must learn adversity. Why would a coach learn adversity? So again, we draw our little triangle underneath the conjunction. Then we look for the elements being joined: to communicate with players, organizing a schedule, and adversity. Just to see what we're working with, let's go ahead and label each of these parts. To communicate with players is an infinitive phrase. Organizing a schedule is a gerund phrase. And adversity is a noun. We need to make sure that all three of these parts are the same. And again, usually we have more than one option, but we need to make our decision based on what is going to sound the clearest and make the most sense. So one way that works is to create infinitive phrases, or really here we just have infinitive complements. A good coach must learn to communicate with players, organize a schedule, and handle adversity. I label these infinitive complements because the parts I'm joining aren't really the infinitive themselves, because to is only said once. The infinitive would be to communicate, to organize, to handle. The complement are the words that complete the infinitive. So that's really what I'm joining, are the three pieces that the three pieces of information that complete the infinitive: communicate with players, organize a schedule, handle adversity. And we can hear by reading that it sounds much clearer. It makes a lot more sense because all three elements are balanced. They're in the same grammatical form. Another time it's absolutely imperative that you use parallel structure is when you're connecting two or more words, phrases, or clauses with correlative conjunctions. Correlative means having a mutual or corresponding relationship. So these are the conjunctions that you want to use when you want to demonstrate such a relationship between the items you are joining. The correlative conjunctions are pairs. So it's pairs of conjunctions that are going to join pairs of items, and you want to show that they are corresponding in some way. One of the most common ones is not only but also. You could also use both and, either or, neither nor, if then, not but, as. Correlative conjunctions really help with the rhythm of a sentence and for emphasis when you use them properly. As with anything, you don't want to overuse them, but you really want to think about how using these conjunctions can bring balance, not only bring balance to your sentence, but also allow you to emphasize something by the way that you're writing the sentence. So here's an example of a sentence that is not parallel. My dog not only likes to chase sticks, but also go on walks. This is a sentence that I've seen versions of this many times. In fact, this is one of the most common errors that I see in student writing, is when they don't make the not only but also parallel. Because I have correlative conjunctions, I'm really balanced around two elements. So first I want to find the correlative. Then I'm going to underline what's being joined by the correlative. Likes to chase sticks, and then go on walks. What are we working with? Likes to chase sticks is a verb plus an infinitive phrase. Go on walks is a verb plus a prepositional phrase. Close, but not exactly the same. You can make this parallel by, again, find your coordinate elements, figure out, okay, what is it that I'm joining? Make sure that they're the same. So here we've joined infinitive phrases. To chase sticks and to go on walks are both infinitive phrases, so that makes this sentence in parallel structure. You also have to use parallel structure when you connect two or more words, phrases, or clauses with a word of comparison, such as than or as. An example, I would rather fly to Florida than to drive. What's wrong with it? Well, than is creating comparison. But here what I'm comparing is fly to Florida and to drive. So what's wrong with the sentence really? Well, here what I'm joining is a verb plus a prep phrase and an infinitive. Well, they don't look that different from each other. They really are in terms of their form. It's a pretty easy fix. I would rather fly to Florida than drive. Note that I've got to Florida at the end of the sentence in parentheses. That's because here I'm creating what's really called an elliptical clause. In other words, the reader or listener understands that we're comparing flying and driving to Florida. So while I could repeat to Florida at the end of the sentence, I don't necessarily have to, which is why I put it in parentheses. Fly to Florida and drive to Florida. Now I have a verb and a prep phrase plus a verb and a prep phrase, and I have a balanced parallel sentence. So here are some tips. These are the steps you should go through when trying to figure out whether or not your sentence is in parallel structure. First, figure out what parts of the sentence are being joined or compared. In other words, what needs to be balanced. Number 2, determine the grammatical structure of these parts. Number 3, if they're not the same, bring them into balance by putting all the parts in the same grammatical pattern. Let's try it out. Read the following sentences and revise any that do not use parallel structure. Remember that there are many ways to revise a sentence to reflect parallel structure, and your decisions will largely be based on sound, rhythm, tone, etc. within the context of your own writing. So when I give answers here, I'm only going to give one choice. That doesn't mean it's the only choice. Now would be a good time to pause the video, work through the practice questions, then replay the video to see some possible answers. Number 1, I would rather eat pizza than to eat vegetables. This should sound weird to your ear. I find the element that's joining, the joining element, in other words, the conjunction. Then I look at, okay, what is this conjunction bringing into balance? Eat pizza and to eat vegetables. Here I have a verb and a direct object and an infinitive phrase. So the difference, yes, is only one word, but it makes a big deal in terms of the structure of this sentence. So to make it parallel, I want to make sure my two parts are the same. I would rather eat pizza than vegetables. So by getting rid of the to eat in the second part, the main verb eat becomes the verb, and then pizza and vegetables both function in this sentence as direct objects, which means I've now brought my sentence into balance. Number 2, global warming affects humans, the environment, and is scary. What am I joining? Humans, the environment, and is scary. Humans is a noun. It's functioning here as a direct object. The environment is also a noun functioning as a direct object. But the last element, I have a linking verb and a predicate adjective. This is not going to work. I have to figure out some way of completely rewriting this sentence so that I can bring it into balance. Again, multiple options. What I've chosen to do is to create verbs, action verbs, and direct objects. So you have to do a little bit more creative thinking with some of your sentences. So there's our and. What's it joining? Threatens humans, damage the environment, and frightens many. Let's double check this is parallel. Threatens humans, I have a verb and a direct object. Damages the environment is a verb plus a direct object. And frightens many is a verb plus a direct object. All three elements are the same. I have parallel structure. Number 3, it's harder to write by hand than typing. Again, I'm looking for my joiner, my conjunction, than. What am I joining? To write by hand and typing. If you were to look at this and tell right away, it's not parallel. I've got 4 words on one side and 1 word on the other. And while parallel structure doesn't necessarily mean that you have the same number of words, they definitely need to be in the same form. I don't have an ing in the first part, so definitely something's wrong here. To write by hand is an infinitive phrase. typing is a gerund. So I have to make a decision about how I'm going to change this. One way would be to turn both of them into an infinitive. It's harder to write than to type. To write is an infinitive, so is to type, so I have a parallel sentence. You may, however, want to completely rewrite this sentence to make it more direct and concise. You could, in fact, just say writing is harder than typing. Two gerunds. It's more direct, more concise. In many ways, it's a better sentence. Finally, number 4. Not only did our teacher assign a lot of reading, but also writing. Not only, but also. We look at what's being joined. Did our teacher assign a lot of reading and then a lonely little writing? Clearly not in balance. Here I've got a noun plus a verb phrase plus a direct object plus a prep phrase, and then a lonely little gerund. So here's a possibility for how to rewrite the sentence. Our teacher assigned not only a lot of reading, but also a lot of writing. It's still not a great sentence. I would probably suggest making this more concise all around by saying, well, I'll show you in a minute. But at least now I have a lot of reading and a lot of writing. But I've got a direct object and a prep phrase, and another direct object and a prep phrase. You could just say, completely rewrite the sentence, which is what I recommend here, and just say, our teacher assigned a lot of reading and writing. This is a balanced sentence. I've got an and. I'm joining reading and writing. Both are gerunds. This isn't really a sentence in which I need to use a correlative. It just kind of feels awkward, so I suggest actually taking it out.